Nihilism can be defined as the rejection of all religions and moral principles, often in the belief that life is meaningless. Philosophically speaking, it is a form of extreme skepticism, maintaining that nothing in the world has real existence. I've never understood nihilism. It makes no sense to me. Within the confines of our minds, we control or can control everything. For instance, we choose how to interpret the events that occur in our lives. We choose through our interpretations how we are going to see the world. I feel like a person's ideology says a lot more about how a person views themselves, how they feel about their own personality, and how they perceive the universe, than that ideology being a real reflection of reality. My question is, why? Why do these people choose to see the world as having no meaning? Why do people choose to believe that all things will end disastrously for the human race? Isn't that kind of depressing? The way I see it, we create our own private universe in our own minds, and what we express to the outside world is a reflection of that. No one else can see our universe, and we can't see the universe of other people. The more you realize this, the more you can choose to shape your own universe the way you would like it to be. Instead of choosing nihilism, which to me suggests that you find no meaning in yourself, you can choose optimism and to live in a universe in which you believe that eventually things will work out, and you can choose to find meaning in working towards that. And those attitudes, those beliefs, impact your actions. If you have optimism for the future and feel like your goals have meaning, then you will be more motivated to work towards those goals. When we think of the concept of meaning and whether or not the entirety of the universe has any real meaning, I think that pondering this problem is pointless. As I said before, I believe that we all create our own little universe in our minds that we control the rules of. We do this through our beliefs, our goals, and our actions. Because of this, you are the only person in your life who can give your life meaning. You decide what has meaning in your universe and what doesn't. If you say that the universe has no meaning, then you've decided that your universe has no meaning. If you're nihilistic, then why not eat yourself to death? Or better yet, why not shoot yourself in the head and thus end your meaningless existence? This, of course, is all your choice. You choose whether or not your life has meaning and what you believe that meaning is. Now, other people do try to influence or control your perspective on your universe. They do this so that they can shape their own universe within the material world. Some may try to do this for money, others for ego, some because they believe that the way they see the world will positively impact society or you. And then there are, of course, those who do it for control. There are many ways that people try to achieve changing you. 4 ways of convincing that I can think of are advertisements, through propaganda, through argument and reason, and through the use of force and the threat of violence. How a person tries to convince you to change your mind tells you a lot about their intention, which is insight into their little universe. Advertisers want to make money, so they need to convince you to buy their goods, products, or services. There's a lot of different ways to advertise. Simply telling people the company advertisers want to make money. So they need to convince you to buy their goods, products, or services. There are a lot of different ways to advertise. Simply telling people the product exists may be enough. Other times, some sort of feel-good image is attached. Sometimes companies really build their product up in order to sell you on it. But knowing that the main goal of the advertisers is to make sure they make money, you should not take what they say about their product at face value without either experiencing it for yourself or doing your own research to verify what they have said. Propaganda is another way that people will try to convince you. Propaganda can be harder to spot for the average person because good propaganda is subtle, so that you don't know you're being propagandized. Propaganda is defined as information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. From my perspective, I see propaganda as always being slanted or sometimes just being completely wrong. Because if the things that the person was saying were true, they would be able to back up what they were saying with either evidence or reason. I see propaganda everywhere, especially in TV shows and movies. There are art forms, such as some TV shows, which are assumed to reflect reality, and oftentimes they don't. Sometimes this is done out of ineptitude or disregard. Other times it is to change how you see the world. What these people are trying to do is convince you that reality is different than it actually is, which I find incredibly devious. We cannot have a real discussion about the world and its problems if we do not have a firm grasp on what the real facts are in a situation. Propaganda is used when a valid argument cannot be made, but others wish to convince you to change your mind without the use of force. This is why propaganda relies so much on the incitement of strong emotions and misinformation. Arguments and reason is the most moral way to convince another person to change their mind. Whether or not a person chooses to change is completely up to them. You present them with logic, reason, your evidence and facts. They get to decide if they like your logic, if they can follow your reason, and they can choose to find out whether or not the facts and evidence you present are true. In other words, your argument is evaluated by others based on its merits and not because you emotionally manipulated them or forced them to believe you. Being willing to present an argument leads to the necessity of criticism. Unless your ideas are challenged, you will never know if they are actually good. A discussion is necessary to determine the good ideas from the bad, but you have to be open and willing to experience the discomfort associated with having your ideas challenged. The least moral way to try to convince someone, although I wouldn't really call it convincing, is through the use of force or threat of violence. On the extreme end, you see this with groups of rioters destroying things or attacking people who are simply trying to express a different opinion. They hope the fear of violent repercussions will convince you not to speak on your beliefs. They hope that you will learn to just shut up and act how they want you to act. And violence done to you only serves as a warning to others who wish to consider your ideas. On the less extreme end, you have the government. Some uses of force within the government I see as being valid and very useful to society. These things are such like speed laws, anti-violence laws, anti-theft laws, and other things like that. Governments, of course, can become more extreme over time in their use of force, but only with the permission of the majority of people. And yes, Essentially, what I'm talking about is the idea that if a government becomes tyrannical, the people could start a civil war and overthrow their government, which has happened before, and it's possible it could happen again. So, yeah. When a government does start to become increasingly restrictive and controlling, they have to use an increasing amount of violence to shut down dissenters and an increasing amount of propaganda to keep favor with the populace. To me, it all ties back to religion. I mean, look at Christianity. This is my best example because this is the religion that I know the most about, having been raised in the Christian religion in a mostly Christian country. As a movement, Christianity started small, then it gained influence with the populace. So the Roman Caesar adopted it and put authority behind the leadership of the church, with him at the highest seat of power. So then, the basis of Christianity got twisted and used in a propagandistic way that was not at all in the spirit of the original teachings. As the Roman Catholic Church gained complete control over Europe, it became more power-hungry and dogmatic in its teachings in the effort to keep control, including doing Mass in Latin so that people couldn't understand what was being said. This, in combination with the Black Death, is why the Dark Ages happened. The dogma of the Church reigned supreme. Dogmatic thought in any ideology is a bad thing. Once something becomes dogma, it is entirely inflexible to nuance and circumstance. It becomes completely unfriendly to the idea of choice or the progression of society because it is truth, and those who believe that truth must not accept heretical beliefs. And when you hold dogmatic beliefs, there can be no progression within yourself because the same process is at work within yourself. Absolute beliefs are hard to challenge because you wouldn't think to challenge them yourself. And when someone does challenge them, it often invokes a highly emotional response that is incredibly uncomfortable. It causes what is known as cognitive dissonance, or the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. And so, rather than working through the discomfort of cognitive dissonance to try to discover what the truth actually is, they feel the need to make those around them conform to their beliefs. Or, if they can't do that, find people who already conform to them. If you have an idea that's like your sacred cow, then you never question it. You never evaluate the merit of that idea. This limits how far you can grow as a person. That doesn't mean you can't have beliefs, but it does mean that you should know the reason why you believe what you believe. And you shouldn't be afraid to reevaluate any and all of your beliefs. But how do you choose to progress in your tiny universe is completely up to you.